Welcome to Truth and Company Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, John the Truth Dioria, and tonight we have another segment of 20 random questions. And tonight's guest is the nephew of the former world champion, Felix, Tito, Trinidad, Joey Borrero. How you doing, Joey?
I'm doing blessed, man. I'm blessed to be here.
I appreciate you coming on, man. I know you're a busy guy. You got things going on at home that you're working on, so I appreciate it.
No problem. It's my pleasure always being here, man. I'm always excited to share a little bit about myself, my testimony, what I've been able to accomplish in the sport, and what I want to accomplish in the sport.
Speaking of accomplishing in the sport, we were just talking off air that you got a title belt. Why don't you show the fans that title belt real quick? Now, that's an ABF belt, and what weight class is that?
140, super lightweight.
Okay, nice. And how long ago did you win that?
I won that in 2022. In October, I believe 16 or 15, something like that, in Campeche, Mexico. I fought against Delgado Chamble, a tough kid from the hometown over there. I beat him in his hometown. Actually, in the fight, it was supposed to be like one of those fights where I was like, "Oh, okay, dude, don't look too tough," But they ended up making it a little bit harder than I thought, because they kept like doing little things like bringing in the model through the side where I was sitting down in the corner. So I would literally get up, the bell would ring, and it would take them like 20, 30 seconds for them to bring in and take out the ring girl, and I wouldn't really get that much rest time in the corner sitting down. So it was definitely a tough experience when it came to combat. I can see why boxing sometimes is considered a dirty sport, because they tried everything in their power to basically have me lose the fight. But all glory to God, we got the victory.
Okay. And before we start these 20 questions, I want some of the fans to understand. Now, your nickname, what does it mean and how do you say it?
So my nickname is Joey, El Hijo de Dios Borrero, which translates to the Son of God. And one thing about me is I don't just say it, I live it. I live a very Christian life, and it's not about a religion, it's about a relationship that I have with God. And my job is to reach souls and show people that there's still positive role models in whatever sport or whatever area of lives they're looking at. You know what I mean? I'm trying to bring something different to the sport of boxing. And in general to everything, give kids a different role model to look at, because before, when we used to watch boxing, we saw Oscar De La Hoya, we saw Felix Trinidad, we saw all these big role models that people would look at. Man, they would make their mistakes, because we're all human, we're not perfect. But they would look at them with such passion, like, man, I want to be like them. I want to be great. I want to be as positive as them. Look at what they're doing for the people. They're giving, they're helping out. You know what I mean? That's what I want to bring back to the sport. And even now we're seeing how everybody else is drifting off, doing their own thing, showing off the chains, the money, the cars, all that, and they're leaving this negative image on the kids, because now, like, they see all these brawls going on, they see all these things going on, like with Tank Davis hitting his ex, or his girl right now. Shakur Stevenson getting in plenty of fights and things like that. Like, I don't want to bring that image, you know what I mean? And I'm not judging them either, because, like I said, we're all human. We all make mistakes. But I just want to make sure that I bring a different outlook to the kids, to the sport, and bring back that sport that was wholesome, back in the day, that people saw and people admired the athletes, not just look at the athletes like, oh, these guys are just freakish athletes, but that's it. They're not really good people or nothing like that.
Okay, that's good to hear, man. That's really good to hear that you have a drive and a goal for something like that to bring positive energy back to the sport and for the kids and the fans. So let me start with these random 20 questions. Are you ready for them?
Yes, sir. Let's go.
All right, so question one. Tell me about your background and your upbringing a little bit.
So I grew up in Cube Alto, Puerto Rico. That was in PR. I trained with my grandpa. My grandpa was the cut man for Felix Trinidad, Juan Popo Guzman, and pretty much him and Juan Felix were pretty much my guides. My uncle was my inspiration growing up, seeing them fight, and then watching them and being there, like the events when the family was all proud, being there and seeing how people would look at them in Puerto Rico, treat them, and show them so much love. I grew up with that desire, ever since I was little. I'm like, man, I want that to be me. Um, Puerto Rico people look at me as like, oh, you're Felix Trinidad's nephew. You must have had it, great. I'm Felix Trinidad's second cousin, but we call each other. I call him uncle because he calls me like his son. He's like he only has 5 girls, and I was one of the only boys that used to hang around with them, take care of the roosters with them, and pretty much spend time with them. Um, and how do you call it? I grew up with that, a little bit poor. I grew up like going through a lot of different struggles, different things. Kids would make fun of me in school. People thought, like some of the people that were in my family thought that I was gonna grow up, sell drugs, fall into the drug habit. The youth in Puerto Rico, that was pretty much all that they do. It's kill each other, sell drugs, go through that. So they thought I was gonna go through that, and all glory to God, I was able to come out here to the States and follow the footsteps of my uncle. Even though after my grandpa passed away, in that's why you see before the Roy Jones Jr. fight before, with Felix Trinidad, in the headband it says Popo. That was my grandpa's nickname, Popo. And because he died the year before, I had stopped boxing at the age of 12, 11. So I pretty much I stopped. I got depressed by the age of 15 when I finally moved to Vegas. I picked it back up and continued my amateur career and became one of the top amateurs in the US.
Nice. Okay, well, now that follows into question two. How did you get involved in boxing? So elaborate a little bit more on that.
My grandpa, he would see me. I would always get in trouble in school. Kids, like I said, would make fun of me, so I would get angry. And I'm talking about kindergarten, like every time, like every day, no miss, like no miss day. My grandma would get a call. Hey, Joey got into a fight again. We got him today in the office. She would get frustrated, and my grandpa finally said, about the age of 6, he's like, you know what? We need to put him in boxing, because if not, he's gonna keep getting this anger. And even though I was in boxing, still I was still getting in trouble in school, still getting into fights, but I was a little bit more controlling. By the age of, I want to say, 13, 14, my fighting days kind of went away. Like I stopped fighting in school, stopped getting into too much problems. Then coming into high school, nobody really disrespected me. I maybe got into a couple of fights, and that was pretty much it. I just continued the boxing, and I learned the discipline, of staying disciplined inside of the ring and not bringing it outside. Once I got my hands registered with USA Boxing, it just became, more known. Like, all right, I can't be messing around, getting in trouble in school. I can face some jail time. So
Okay. Question three. Do you have any hobbies outside the sport of boxing?
yes, sir. Fishing. I love fishing, man. I love hiking. I love fishing. I'm a very outdoorsy person. Joey Spencer. He's a good friend of mine, and I love it because he's the same way. He likes to hunt. He loves to fish. Loves to do all that stuff, and I'm the same way. You could say it's a Joey thing. I'm not sure.
Okay, question four. What type of relationship do you have with your uncle Felix Tito Trinidad, and have you ever gotten any boxing advice from him?
I actually, April, when I came back, April, he gave me a lot of advice. Before that, in December last year, He gave me a lot of boxing advice, you know, in my career. When it comes to my career, when it comes to the way I'm guiding it, he gives me a lot of advice. We're really close, you know. We're really close. Actually, like I said, I'll send you some videos from my Instagram when me and him were basically spending together, spending time together. We watched the Tank and Ryan Garcia fight together on PR. You know, it's been years since I when I left Puerto Rico. I was probably 15, and the first time I came back was when I was 26. You know what I mean? At the no, actually 25, about to turn 26. So it was 10 years after I moved from over there that I came back, and me and him were like super close. You know, spending time together, picking back up where we left off, talking about how life has been, how everything's been with my career, what's my career goals, what's my next step. You know, and I tell him, I'm like, my goal is to be greater than you, but I know I have some big shoes to fill in, and you know, and it's really a motivating factor. You know, I want to be a unified champion out of the males in Puerto Rico. We haven't had that, and I know that all willing and all glory to God. You know, we'll get there, but I always have a thing where I got to put God first, and everything else follows. That's Proverbs.
Okay. All right, question 5. Do you have any boxing superstitions?
I used to. I used to. I used to have like a really big boxing superstition when I was fighting in Mexico or even here in the States. I was one of them guys like, oh man, I haven't taken my B12. You know, I haven't taken my B12 shot. I used to go buy in Mexico like 5,000 milligrams of B12 in an injection, inject it in my butt by myself, you know, and go get ready to fight. And I used to think, oh man, I feel like, because people would tell me, man, once you take that B12, you feel like a horse ready to take off and running. You know what I mean? But I've stopped doing that, you know, because then one of my coaches told me it's all a mental state. It's a placebo. You start thinking and you become dependent on that, and I really was becoming dependent on that B12. You know, another thing is, you know, it's not a superstition. It's more me, my relationship with God. I know that I have to pray. I have to spend time in worship and prayer before I get in that ring, before I go fight. Because one thing is, like King David, glorify God first. You show him worship, and God gives you the victory right after.
Okay. Question 6. What is your favorite boxing movie?
Man, Big George Foreman. It used to be Rocky, but that Big George Foreman movie, man, it spoke to me big time. I love the testimony behind it, and it's big. Like, you know, it's like I said, people think that God can't use a boxer for His glory or for working in His things, you know, but people forget, man, that that God was a God of war. You know, Jesus was peaceful when He came to earth, but if we look in the book of Exodus, it tells you right there that God is a God of war. You know, and in Psalms 144:1, the Lord prepares my hands for battle and my fingers for war. So that scripture means that God's preparing my hands when I go in there through my coach, and He's getting my hands ready for that war. You know, when I go in there to give me the victory. So it's all about you knowing that God's with you no matter where you go or what you do.
Okay. Question 7. If you could go on a date with any celebrity, what celebrity would you want to go on a date with?
Man, to be honest, I wouldn't go on a date with any celebrity. Um, you know, like I'm happy with my girl, with my wife. She's
Well, I
amazing.
know, but I mean hypothetically,
Yeah.
if you had a chance, it doesn't have to be a romantic date,
Mhm.
just to go out to dinner with a celebrity that you enjoy or something. What celebrity would you pick?
Okay, somebody that good. To be honest, in a in a boxing like analytical um type of like conversation, I would definitely love to go in with like Sugar Shane Mosley. and just sit there, and pick his brain about his movements, his style, what he used to do. I'm real cool with Sugar Shane Jr. and I know Sugar Shane Senior, but I haven't been able to sit down with him one on one and pick his brain of boxing knowledge.
Okay. All right, question 8. If you could have dinner with any 4 people in the world, dead or alive, celebrities, people from history, anybody, who would you want at your table?
Of course, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, Apostle Paul. I'm going a little bit into like the boxing perspective now, Salvador Sanchez. Um, and man, sweet pea Pernell Whitaker.
Okay. All right, question 9. Who's the one boxer, alive or dead, that you would want to sit down and have a conversation with?
Like I said, Sugar Shane mostly, but now, and there also one falls into controversy because I'm a big fan of Prince Namsen Ahmed, and I used to love his boxing style, man. My amateur career, a lot of my style was based off of his, because I just love the phenomenal athleticism that he had. You can't. There's not gonna be another Prince Namsen Ahmed. There's never gonna be another one like him. Somebody to have that impeccable defense, head movement, be able to throw his opponents in the ring and still deliver a KO blow. It was amazing. Borrero put a stop to it, and after Borrero won, he kind of just gave up on boxing, man. But he was a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal boxer.
Okay. Um, Number 10. Question 10. Are you a cat or a dog person?
I'm a dog person, big dog person, ever since I was little.
Okay.
Just any dogs, though. I love big dogs. Like, we're talking about Great Danes, we're talking about Mastiffs, that type of dog. The only small dogs that I like is the micro bullies because they're going in. They're real nice dogs, and there's good family dogs to have for the kids around.
All right. Question 11. Have you ever had an incident where you almost died?
A lot of them. Actually, one of them was in Mexico when I was fighting in my fourth professional fight. I went to Colima, Mexico with two of my friends. We were driving. We got to Colima. Before we got there, we got stopped by the federales from Mexico. They shook us down for money, let us go. Then we got to Colima, spent a couple of weeks there, won the fight, then came driving back. And in the state of Puerto Vallarta in Mexico, right before we went in, the cartel stopped us right there. They were dressed like military, but no ranking, nothing like that. They were in the back of trucks that were welded with like different pieces of aluminum and different things. And like we felt the feeling like what's called the angel of death. Like it was like a scariest feeling I've ever felt in my life. And I've almost drowned a couple times, but that topped it all off. When I got back to Vegas, I hugged my son and I cried because I was like, man, I didn't think I was gonna see you guys again.
So tell me then, they stopped you. Why did they let you go? What did they do exactly?
Well, they shook us down for money. They shook us down to see what we had. They went through our bags, see if we had any drugs, see if we had any gold chains or anything like that. Took everything out the truck. Basically, they saw a poster. Luckily, so God works in mysterious ways. The promoter gave me a big poster that they had for me, for my card, my first fight, and they hung it up, and basically they gave it to me after the fight. They were like, "Oh, take it. You can hang it up at your gym or give it to one of your coaches," and that's what I did. But when they took everything out of the truck, they saw the big poster. They saw me there, and they're like, "Oh, you box?" So I told them, I'm like, "I'm here, dude. I was here for a boxing fight. We're just trying to get back." I'm like, "We don't got no money. All we have is dirty clothes and everything in the back." And they saw it. But when they saw the poster at gunpoint, and I'm talking about M16s, AK-47s, like Cuerno de Chivos, and like big guns, man. they started pointing at me and they were like shadow box. And I started shadow boxing at gunpoint. We were so scared, man, me and my homies, but they were like, okay, we see that you're for real, you're good. So they were like, grab all your things and go. And we threw everything in the car because they only gave us 5 minutes. We were out of there like in 2.5. I think we even left stuff. We just threw everything in the car and left. You know what I mean? And a little bit ahead, a construction worker tried to stop us, communicated through the radio, and I think they told him through the radio, we already shook them down. They're good, you know. So they let us go through again, and we
Wow.
Puerto Vallarta, man. But it was a scary situation.
It sounds like it. All right, question 12. Would you ever go skydiving?
Me and my girl were just talking. We're talking about that a long time ago. I was like, man, it would take a lot. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm one of those adventurous people that eventually I would. So eventually I plan on going to skydiving, but I don't know as of right now. That's one thing that I got to deal with myself because I'm one of the things I am afraid of is heights. So
Okay. All right, question 13. Who are some of the bigger name boxers that you've sparred with so far in your career?
Tank Davis, Francis Bartholomew, Jorge Linares, uh, man, Rolando Romero, Oscar Duarte. No, wait, not Oscar Duarte. Ryan Pino. Um, man, it's been a couple. Luis Cuba Arias. Before he fought Jerry Hurd, I helped him during that training camp. Um, it's been a couple more, man, but I gotta go through and try to remember them. But oh,
No,
Yuriani Sugas. Um, yeah, it's been a couple. It's been quite a bit. Devin Haney. Yeah, it's been a lot of them, man. When you're in Vegas, you spar all these guys, you know, when they're up and coming, and also before they became pro, you know, we used to be good amateurs. Oh, one of the prospects right now that is blowing up, Freddie Rojas, his brother Emmanuel Rojas. Um, like I said, it's been yeah, a lot of top prospects, a lot of big name fighters that I've sparred, you know, that I've worked with, that I've got a lot of experience from.
so let me ask you just something off of that question. Now, do a lot of these guys, when they get in the sparring with you out in Vegas, they know you're Trinidad's nephew, right? So do some of them try to put it on you a little bit more extra just because you're Trinidad's nephew to see what you
all of
got?
them all of them they come in and but they bring it hard, you know. When I've been in sparring sessions with them, it's been quite hard. Sparring sessions never been easy, especially, oh, Gamboa was another one, especially with Gamboa. Tank Davis actually has been the only person to actually drop me in a sparring session, to like drop me down in a sparring session. I've sparred Rolando Romero, and me and him, we've heard each other back and forth. We've never dropped each other. You know, that's where when Rolando and Tank were fighting and people were asking me, we did interviews. I told him, I was like, Tank's going to drop Rolando because Tank is more of a boxer than he is a pressure fighter. I tested him going on the inside, and I was landing on him, like big time landing on him when I was putting pressure. The moment I started trying to box from the outside, he threw an overhand right that put me down. You know, I got back up quick, but it definitely made me understand what the separation between an elite fighter and an up and coming prospect was.
Okay. All right, let's see. Question 14. If you could invite any boxer, past or present, over to watch like a big pay per view fight, what fighter would you choose? And don't say your uncle, because you probably already watched one with
Yeah,
him.
he already man. The thing is, I've had a lot of big fighters already watch me, you know, and been there, but one that is dead that I would definitely love for him to see. Oh, actually, no. Let's Prince Nasem. I would definitely love him to watch me fight, you know, in person and see me there. You know, Kevin Kelly. He's watched me spar. Tommy Hearns. He's watched me fight in the
No, no,
amateur.
no, not watch you fight. I mean, if you were gonna watch a pay-per-view fight at home on TV, what
Mm.
fighter would you want to invite over and you and him sit and watch a big pay-per-view fight?
Like as Prince I said, yeah, just to pick his brain, see how he would tell me, hey, this is gonna happen. Hey, this is what I think is gonna happen. Or Andre Ward, because Andre Ward has one of the biggest boxing IQs.
Okay. Let's see, where are we at here? Question 15. Who was your favorite opponent to fight so far in your pro career?
Juan Santiago. That was the fight before the last one I had. Juan Santiago was definitely one of my favorite fighters that I fought. He brought it, man. It was a war back and forth, and he made me feel what it is being in there with a journeyman, with a veteran. You know, a lot of people underestimate these journeymans that have a bad record in fighting, but man, he was definitely a tough opponent, and one of those opponents that no matter how many times I dropped him 3 times in the fight, and by the third time I dropped him, they didn't give him the TKO. He kept getting back up, and I was like, man, in my head I was like, don't get back up, bro, don't get back up, you know.
All right, question 16. If you had an opportunity to work with any trainer in boxing, who would you want to work with?
Mm. That is a good one. You know, between Eddie Reynoso and Nacho Berenstein, as far as the Mexican boxing goes, just because they have a little bit knowledge about the Mexican boxing, but also I would bring out my well, kind of like my grandpa Juan Felix. You know, bring him out of retirement and be able to for him to coach me. You know, just like he coached my uncle.
Okay. All right, question 17. What's something that you are absolutely afraid of?
I would say God, but it's more like a healthy fear, like you know, a fear that I know that I gotta keep my relationship and everything strict with them. That I gotta be disciplined in my spiritual life, just like I am in my boxing life and my physical life. You know,
Okay. Question 18. What's one sport that you just have no interest in?
golf, golf. I
Okay.
just I know it, a lot of people tell me, oh, it's relaxing, it's soothing. You gotta learn your angles. You gotta know all about the wind. I'm like, I got out of school. I decided to stay boxing. I decided not to keep going in track and field because I knew I could get a scholarship. I decided just to stay in boxing because I don't like school. I don't like thinking too much. You know, I'm a businessman, and that's the only type of thinking I like doing is business. When it comes to anything else, I'm like, ah.
Okay. All right, question 19. Who's your favorite comedian?
Oh man, right now, I forget this white boy's name, man. He's funny as heck though. Um, Kevin Hart is definitely up there, and Dave Chappelle, but those are legends in the comedy world. There's also this Mexican. Oh man, I forget his name. Franco Franco Escamilla. He's really funny. One of the top Mexican comedians out there. Um, and then I forgot this white boy, but he's supposed to come to Denver, man. I forgot his name, but he's really funny, man. Once
You're not talking about Matt Rife, are you?
Matt Rife, there we go, Matt Rife. He's hilarious, man.
Yeah, I like him too.
Yeah, he's funny, man. Joy Coy too. Joy Coy is hilarious too, man. There's a lot of controversy because a lot of big names up there, man. But I would definitely say out of the up and coming Matt Rife, I would put Dave Chappelle as number one, Kevin Hart number two, and three Joy Coy.
Okay. All right, question 20, your last question. If you had to pick one children's charity to give $100 million to, who would it be and why?
FOBA.
Okay, and explain to me
Fresh,
what that is.
Fresh Oquendo's Fighting Foundation. That's so their Fresh Oquendo's Fighting Foundation is based out of Chicago. That's by Fast Fresh. Really, he's like my uncle too. I call him uncle. I would definitely donate to that foundation because they're doing something great with the kids. Him, Nate Tubbs are doing a great job out there in Chicago, helping the kids stay out of the streets, fall in love with the sport of boxing, help kids, get another way out, because we see that youth out there in Chicago is dying off, killing each other. You know what I mean? And that's one way to stop it is making them fall in love in the gym. And they're definitely helping a lot of families, a lot of kids, that are coming out of that program. And not just coming out, but they're becoming some of the top national amateur fighters, in the country that are coming out of there.
All right, well, listen, Joey, I appreciate you taking time to come on and do the random 20 questions. I'm glad you had fun with them. I know you're busy. I'm glad that you're training. Do we got any fights coming up soon? Do you want to say anything to your fans before we end?
Guys, just want to tell everybody, God bless. Thank you for tuning in. Those ones that are tuning in, you guys can follow me at Boxing Joey on Instagram. And also remember, a man can plan everything in his heart, but the Lord determines your steps, So everything you do, place it in God's hands and you'll be successful, And to those that are waiting for me to fight, we got announcements coming soon. I can't say nothing yet until everything's a done deal, but stay tuned.
All right, and with that, the truth has spoken.